Hello everybody, Chelsea here. Welcome to Yoga for Your Core. So happy to have you here on the mat with me today to target your core muscles. They are such an important group of muscles that we want to make sure are really strong. If our core is weak, then the muscles in other parts of our body will work extra hard to try to make up for the weakness in your core, creating a lot of muscle imbalances. So our rectus abdominis is not our core, the six-pack muscle, but deeper underneath. We have our internal, external obliques, and then we have our transverse abdominis, which is the deepest layer of abdominal muscles. We have our pelvic floor, our diaphragm, normal tympani, and our back, and that creates the center can inside of our core of our body. And so we are going to target working on those muscles today. So let's get started. So taking a moment to be present on the mat and focusing on our breath, we're going to sit cross-legged in a comfortable seated position, sits bones rooted down, shoulders down and back, crown of the head lifted, sternum lifted, hands on your knees, palms down or up, closing your eyes, ears stacked over your shoulders, and then taking 5 deep conscious breaths, trying to take all of your thoughts out of your mind and solely focus on the feeling of your abdomen expanding as you fill your lungs and your abdomen pulling in as you expel the air out. So 5 big breaths here. Feel your shoulders melting down your back as you exhale. As you inhale, feel the spine lengthening. More big breaths, bigger than all the other ones. Opening your eyes if they're closed, we're going to come onto our hands and knees. Hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath the hips, fingertips spread wide. If you have any knee issues, you can fold up the mat and place it underneath your knees, or you can stick something soft underneath it. If you have any wrist issues, you can come up into a fist if that works better for you, or come into sunbird. So we're going to engage the core here, pulling the belly button in and up, and we're going to energetically pull the hands towards the knees and the knees towards the hands to tighten in through the core, spine long. You're going to lift the left arm up at shoulder height, keeping your gaze down at the mat. You're reaching the hand forward, but you're pulling the humerus, the arm bone, into the shoulder socket at the same time. And then we're going to reach the right foot back, bringing it up at hip height and keeping the pelvis neutral, reaching the toes back, feeling the distraction in through the hip joint. You're in one long line from your fingertips all the way to your toes. And then you're still engaging the core, pulling the fist and the knee in towards the midline, pulling the belly button in and up, and remembering to keep breathing. So we're going to come into some movement with breath here. So we're going to inhale, reach everything away. Exhale to draw the elbow and the knee together underneath to touch. Inhale to lengthen, big breaths, slow movements. And 2 more. Really press out the air as you exhale, rounding the spine. Inhaling, coming out and holding this pose, reaching the shoulder, the hand and the toe away from one another, shoulders squared, hips squared. One more big breath. And then lowering hand and knee down, shifting the hips side to side, maybe rotating that wrist that was planted a little bit. Okay, coming into the other side. So first, pulling the core in, pulling the belly button in and up, energetically pulling the fists towards the knees towards the fists, shoulder blades down your back, and then pressing through the hands, lifting through the shoulders, and then reaching the right hand forward at shoulder height, head looking down towards the mat. You're reaching the fingers forward, but you're pulling the shoulder into its socket, and then lifting the left foot up to hip height, squeezing through the glute, reaching one long line of energy from the fingertips to the toes, core engaged, spine long, and then adding movement, inhaling, lengthening, exhale, draw the elbow into the knee, underneath you, inhale to reach. Two more. Holding it up once you've reached out again for a couple breaths here. Core engaged. And then lowering back down. Giving that left wrist a little twist. Getting a little bit of movement in there from holding you up. Okay, so either onto your hands or your fists again. We're going to come into bear pose. So tucking your toes if they're not tucked already. So you're still in this tabletop position. And then we're going to hover the knees just a couple inches off of the mat, pulling the core in and up, tractioning the hands towards the center line, pressing through the hands, opening up in between the shoulder blades, looking down at the mat, big breaths. If you're shaking, that's good. Three more breaths. Lowering the knees down, sitting back onto your heels into child's pose, reaching the hands forward, relaxing the forehead down, breathing into the belly, feeling it press up against the thighs. You're going to come into downward facing dog. So keeping your hands a little bit further forward than the shoulders, tucking the toes, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling. Fingertips spread wide, hands shoulder width distance apart, feet hip width distance apart, reaching the chest towards the thighs, relaxing the shoulders down the back, and then bringing the soft parts of the inside of the elbows in towards the center to open up in between the shoulder blades. More length on the emphasis on the length of the spine, then actually lengthen the legs. So having bend in your knees if you need to, reaching the heels down towards the earth. We're gonna inhale the right foot up and back towards the top of the wall behind you. Exhale to bring the knee towards the right elbow. Inhale, back up. Exhale, knee through in towards the chest, lifting the knee up towards the chest. Inhaling back, fingertips spread wide. Exhale, right knee to left elbow. Inhale back and up. Exhale to lower down into downward facing dog. Maybe walking out the dog a little bit, alternating lifting and lowering the heels. Shoulder blades relax down the back. And then to the other side, inhale, lifting the left foot back and up. Exhale, left knee, left elbow. Inhale, back and up. Exhale, left knee through and up towards the chest and pull it up towards the chest. And inhale back. Exhale, left knee, right elbow. Inhale, back and up. Exhale down into downward facing dog. Walking the hands towards the feet, coming into a standing forward fold, wiggling the hips out, bringing the belly button in and up to support the low back, having a slight bend in the knees, allowing your upper body just to melt down towards the ground. Feet hip width distance apart, parallel to one another. One more big breath here. Now we're going to walk our hands all the way forward into a plank. So if you have any wrist issues, you can either come up onto your fists, or you can come down onto your forearms, parallel to one another, or hands interlaced, elbows underneath the shoulders. And the body is long, the core is engaged, so pulling the belly button in and up, pressing through the elbows or hands or fists to open up in between the shoulder blades. You don't want sagging hips or piked hips. You want to have a straight long line from your head down to your heels, reaching heels back and energetically pulling the elbows, hands or wrists towards your feet, feet towards the elbows or the hands. Big breaths. Don't hold your breath. You can always lower down to your knees if you need to. Three more big breaths here. Coming up onto your hands if you're on your elbows, and then coming back into a downward facing dog. Relaxing the shoulder blades down the back, maybe walking out the dog a little bit again. Then coming down onto your knees. We're gonna swing our legs around and come down onto our seat. We're gonna come into boat. So sitting with your feet on the mat, hip width distance apart, lengthening through the spine, keeping the spine really long and the sternum lifted. We're gonna lean back. Shoulder blades relax down your back. Bringing your palms facing one another and arms extended at shoulder height. And then we're going to lift our shins and feet up. So the shins are parallel to the ground. You're still lifting through the chest. You can keep your knees bent here, or you can extend them. And then if you have it in your practice, you can bring your arms up overhead and align with your torso into a V shape, finding which variation works for you. Breathing, feeling the core tight, the spine long, shoulders relaxed. 3 more big breaths. And then lowering the feet down. We're gonna come down onto our backs. We're gonna slowly do it. So hands out like in boat pose, palms facing each other, and then slowly rolling down one vertebrae at a time, keeping that core strong. Okay, rocking the hips out side to side as you windshield wiper the knees. Coming through center. We're going to bring our shins parallel to the floor, knees slightly in front of our hips. Palms onto our thighs, belly button pulled in and up and pressing your low back down into the ground. And we're going to resist pressing our thighs into our hands and our hands into our thighs. You can use as much pressure as you want. The harder you push, the more you resist, the more work you're doing. So it's up to you. Keeping those shoulder blades tucked down underneath your back. And pressing, resisting, pulling that belly button in and up, breathing. One more breath. And bringing your knees into your chest, interlacing your fingers across your shins and rocking side to side, massaging into the low back, giving yourself a little bit of a break. Big breaths. One more big breath. Okay, and releasing your legs and bringing your feet down to the mat. So your shoulder blades tucked under, arms alongside your body, palms facing down. And so knees bent and feet a little bit further away from the glutes. And we're going to lift the right foot up, keeping the knee bent and raising and bringing the knee in towards you. And you can make the left foot really light to intensify this. Belly button pulled in and up. This movement is very, very slow. So we're gonna really slowly bring that knee in towards us. You can press the palms down into the floor, pull that belly button in and up, lighten that left foot, and then slowly lower the foot back down. So this really isolates the transverse abdominis. And if you're doing it right, if you're doing it slow and you are making that left foot light, it's a lot of work to do. And then switching, bringing the left knee in, lightening the right foot, pulling the belly button in and out, pressing the low back down into the mat, pressing the palms into the floor, breathing, and then lowering back down. really slowly. And then 2 on each side more. Really slowly, going with your own pace. Relaxing your face and your jaw. Making sure that the foot that is on the ground is really light, almost like you're lifting it, gonna initiate lifting it up, makes it a lot harder. One more on each side. Belly button in and up, press the low back down into the ground. Make sure this foot on the ground is light. Pressing the palms into the mat. And then when that is complete, bring your knees back into your chest, interlacing your fingers across the shins, and then rocking side to side if you want. Big breaths. And then coming into little bridge, we're going to place our feet back down onto the mat, close to our glutes, hip width distance apart. Tuck the shoulders under, placing the palms down onto the mat beside you, lifting up the pelvis towards the ceiling, imagining those bony parts in front of the pelvis being lifted up towards the sky, squeezing the glutes, tucking the tailbone under. And then if you have it in your range of motion, you can interlace your hands underneath your back, pressing the palms and the fist into the ground and pulling the heels towards your glutes, lifting the chest up. 3 more big breaths. Unlacing your hands if they're laced, and slowly lowering 1 vertebrae at a time down, tailbone coming down last. And then coming into our spinal savasana, you can either extend your legs and let your feet flop out to the sides, arms out from the side of you, palms facing up. Or you can come into reclined cobbler, which is my favorite. Bringing your feet, soles of your feet together close to your groin. And then allowing yourself to just be on your mat. Just naturally breathing and feeling the weight of the ground below you, supporting your body. Closing your eyes. using the other hand to press yourself up into a seated position. Thank you so much for taking the time to strengthen your core with me on the mat today. Namaste.